You can't put sparkles on your bullshit. Wise words from Aren Bahia. From drug-dealing gangster to spiritual entrepreneur and philanthropist, Aren has uncovered the true path to healing, transformation, and inner power. In this episode, I dive deep with my soul brother to shed light on what it really means to be spiritual. Tune in and learn how Aren traded his life in the dope game for a life of impact and giving back. Why most people in the spiritual community would rather jump on a cause versus actually doing something about it. The difference between looking spiritual and being spiritual. And why wealth and money are actually spiritual things. Aren is a Canadian entrepreneur that moved to Bali in early 2016. Since then, he has been on a spiritual quest to become a new man while simultaneously launching 3 businesses in 3 years. Aren clawed his way out of a rough lifestyle of organized crime and drug addiction in East Van to start his life over on the island of the gods. He is the owner and founder of Conscious Arts Tattoo Shop and the Karma House Bali Tattoo Temple, as well as a partner in Yogi Lab, an online platform for high performers wanting to level up as a lifestyle. All of Aren's businesses are involved in charity work as part of their core values, specializing in education for mentally disabled Balinese children. Another fun fact, Aren hates voice notes, just like I do, and his spirit animal is the octopus. Now, trust me, you're gonna want to tune into this episode. It is so good, okay? So keep listening and make sure if you love it, share it with a friend. Now, if you are a thought leader who's looking to expand your life, your vision, and your impact alongside a powerful collective of leaders in 2020, head to rubyfremon.com/TLC to learn more about the Thought Leader Collective. If you dig this podcast, please stay in the loop by signing up for my weekly emails. Sign up today at rubyfremon.com/subscribe. Now it is time to learn the difference between looking spiritual and being spiritual with Aren Bahia. Hey, thought leaders, I am back with a very, very dear soul brother of mine, one who we think we've connected in the past in our former lives when I was a nightlife promoter and he was a gangster. We think that this happened. We're pretty sure that I probably kicked him out of some clubs or didn't let him into some clubs. Pretty sure.
You
And
had big
now,
hair.
right. And now we've reconnected on the other side of our spiritual journeys, both as entrepreneurs and we're both focused on creating an impact in the world that we live in. So I'm really excited to have you on the show, Aren. Welcome to today's Thought Leader. This is going to be a good show.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting. It's super funny. Like, it's super funny how the full circle and how we reconnected. And you were getting tattooed at my shop in Bali. And we're like, yo, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
What years were you working nightclubs? And I was like, oh, I was an asshole at those times. I'm like, wait a minute. Did you have pink hair? It's like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you were on my ban list. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
I was on the gang squad watch list.
Yeah, the gang squad. Oh my God. And this is back in Canada, Vancouver to be specific for all our listeners. Yeah, it was a very interesting time. And what I love is that we've both just been on our own individual journeys in this lifetime and have come to this totally different place and are living as different versions of ourselves, like evolved versions of ourselves. And I think that this is such a testament to anyone listening or watching that change is inevitable, first of all. And we get to direct the course of our change. Like we get to direct the way in which we evolve and the direction in which we evolve. We get to choose that. We get to create that. And we've both created that for ourselves in our own individual lives. Yours landed you in Bali, which, you know, I think maybe the next chapter of my evolution will land me somewhere tropical. I don't know. We'll see.
But you're in LA. It's a pretty sweet deal.
So it is, right. Actually. Yeah. We both migrated. We both migrated to hotter hotter climates.
Yeah, tired of the rain. The rain didn't do me so good. It's
No.
cold, rainy Vancouver. It's a beautiful city, but absolutely getting out of that environment allowed me to start over and control the narrative of who I am now. And it was a big
Yeah.
step for me. So if it was like I was stuck being that guy in that place, it was too hard to get out and not be that guy in that place. I already had enough
Right.
time on the clock being that guy there. So getting out to Bali, it was like, oh shit, I can be anyone I want to be now. And who am I really behind all the facade of who I was trying to be in Vancouver? It was
Mm-hmm.
actually somebody who wanted to do some good. And I wasn't doing good in Vancouver. And
Right.
it was killing me. It wasn't what my actual soul's path was. It was actually just a huge fuck around. So
Yeah.
coming out
Yeah.
to Bali was huge. It was a funny thing because what landed me out there was seeing Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh, the
Like
movie.
actually, Julia Roberts saved my life.
So Julia Roberts, if you're listening,
Yeah. Thank you, Julia.
there you go. So that guy, I mean, before we go any further, I want you to paint a picture of that guy so
Oh,
that our
shit.
listeners know what that guy really is. Because I could paint the picture for you from memory.
Yeah.
But also my memory is a little patchy from those years too. So
Yeah.
talk to us about that guy.
I mean, growing up in East Vancouver is a funny thing, and that's where I grew up. And it was like drug dealing and the gang life was quite prevalent. It's an expensive city to live in, so it's just like
Mm-hmm.
people are. And it's Port City. There's lots of cultivation of marijuana. There's lots of drugs coming in. It's just easy to get into the drug trade. And where I grew up, those were the guys who were cool. Those were the guys who had power. They had the cars. They had the women, and it was just like at a young, susceptible age. That was it for me. That was like, is accessible, like very, very, very accessible. And it was like the quickest path at that time to what I thought was power. So I
Right.
was like, oh, cool. I can do something and be somebody. So I did it. I went full in on it. And just side story before that, before getting into, the drug dealing, I was fat. I had braces, I had glasses, I had asthma. I was like not cool. I had a high pitched voice. Like, I was not cool. And I wanted to do anything to shed that guy who got bullied, anything that
Mm-hmm.
could protect that guy. So this outer layer became on top of that, where I was a fighter. I was training kickboxing. I was teaching kickboxing, and I was selling drugs on the side. And that was where I was going to be able to to get some notoriety in my area.
Right.
And then the drug dealing took off, and it was like, oh, I started meeting bigger people. I started meeting people across the country. It started evolving. And then I started getting a more inflated idea of myself. So it was like, went from wearing Adidas and Nike to Gucci and Louis. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, cool. I'm the man now. I got a Benz now. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was it for me. And so you'd see me downtown, and it was just ridiculous. I was a quite inflated character. And
Mm-hmm.
and that I took a hard fall from that. So it was like, that was the guy then. I had a bunch of people working for me. I was living downtown. I was doing it, but it was soon after I found that was pretty empty.
So talk to us about that, like that turning point, because your evolution has brought you to, and we're going to get to this, a completely different space.
Yeah,
So I want to
totally.
talk about that turning point so that our listeners get a better understanding of what that looked like.
It's funny when you do things and you get to find out they're a little empty. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things you'll go and do, and you'll find out that they're actually empty. And I think the Buddha said that in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
but actually, actually. And so it's yeah, I did that whole gangster thing, and when I started realizing, what am I actually hustling for? And it's the things that I'm actually hustling for, I can get for free. Like if I want connection, if I want validation, if I want inner power, you can go and get those. It doesn't have to come through money and fear and all this bullshit. It's not actually, it's not necessary. You're just creating more stress for yourself. And when my friends started getting shot and dying and kidnapped and overdosing and all this crazy stuff was happening, and I was doing way too much drugs just to be okay with the level that I had to deal with. It's like,
Yeah.
it was scary. It was no joke. It's like you're dealing with Mexican cartels at this point. It's no joke. It's
Mm-hmm.
your life's on the line, and that was just way over my head. I was not ready and prepared to be a killer. That's not
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted to be doing in my life. And in my life, actually, I wanted to still be doing some good. I was still known as being trustworthy and solid in the game. So I could go back tomorrow, and guys would still let me in, and that was something that I prided myself on. But to be at the level above that, or stay at that level, you had to be ruthless. And it was just like, shit, man, that was breaking my heart. So I was doing an insane amount of drugs, like
Right.
Scarface proportions. And
Mm-hmm.
that was then disassociating me so much from my heart, my reality, what I was actually doing. And in turn, I was depressed. So if I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't high and numbing how sad I was, or how depressed I was actually just going to be like, I was just a mess. It wasn't okay, but I was hiding it all because I wanted to have this outer layer of being a boss. And
Mm-hmm.
that can only go for so long, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that
Yeah.
had to that guy had to die for me in order for me to come out here.
Yeah.
Luckily, I didn't have to die because it
Right.
was some close calls out there.
Yeah.
So it got pretty climactic leaving Vancouver, and things were getting like, you have this feeling that something bad's going to happen. Like you
Definitely.
just have something hanging over you, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, yo, if I don't do something real soon to get out of this situation, because all these little events are happening,
Right.
I was like, yeah, it's not going to be that way. I'm not going to make it. And I could feel it. Like I could just feel it like a cloud hanging over me.
Mm-hmm.
So I started selling everything I had. I started pawning off all my work programs, like different, I guess you call them programs, but like different guys, in different cities, and you send them
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's like, okay, I started giving them to my other friends. I just got out,
Right.
and that was a tough process. That was the hardest thing, was to let go of that game.
Right.
Because my identity was tied into that,
Yeah,
it
you
was,
associated like your sense of connection, validation, inner power with this.
who was I going to be without that?
Yeah.
I had no idea. There was financial handcuffs coming in, cash
Mm-hmm.
money coming in. It was the power, the notoriety. I just didn't know who I was going to be leaving that.
Mm-hmm.
And that biggest fear actually was a misconception, because that was so much power there. It's like, oh shit, who am I going to be? It's like, you can be anybody you want to be. And
Right.
I didn't see that until I got to Bali and took that big risk.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh shit. When I got out there, I remember having moments where I was driving my scooter through the rice paddies and having moments where I was like, I couldn't tell if I was going to laugh or cry at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. And it was just overwhelming emotion. And I hadn't felt this much emotion. I don't even remember when, because I was numbed out and I was actually
Mm-hmm.
free to feel right now. And so
Yeah.
I remember having moments, like epic, beautiful moments, like about to cry while I was driving.
Yeah. I relate so much to that, just from, the cycle of numbing out with
Mm-hmm.
drugs, and then when you're coming down from it, everything floods back in, the depression, the
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, like all the traumas and the wounds and everything that you're feeling. And then you
Mm-hmm.
just numb out some more. And that was my cycle as well. And I think for anyone who has gone through that, that you don't really see what's possible. Like you don't have that vision yet, but you can
Mm-hmm.
get to a place where you're like, this no longer feels like something that I can like be in, I can maintain, I can live with. And your path took you to Bali, which is
That point is a
Mhm.
blessing. If you can get to
Totally.
a rock bottom, if you
Hmm.
can get to a breaking point, it's a blessing, because the most dangerous thing is like being in a place that's like shitty but not so bad.
Yeah.
You're just
Like
gonna
the most dangerous is like when you're just hovering at rock bottom.
complacency. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
then
not
like,
good.
and you're, nothing breaks you. And then
Yeah.
when you reach that breaking point, that's when you're like, okay, something's got to change. Like that's when we are presented with the opportunity and the gift. And so I'm really, grateful that you experienced that and you took that chance for yourself to go to Bali, because now you're this incredible entrepreneur, but someone that I see as like a true thought leader for a generation, because the way in which you're running all your businesses is with such integrity and devotion to giving back. And I think that there's a lot of people in our space, right? If you want to call it like the spiritual space, the
Mm.
leadership space, the personal development space, there's a lot of people who talk the talk. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah, yeah.
people out there who are fucking preaching, right? There's a lot of people who run off to Bali and become digital nomads, but don't really do shit. But
Yeah,
you went to
yeah,
Bali and you established not one, not two, but three businesses. Is that right? Three total?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Three
three
total.
businesses, all of which give back to charity. And businesses that are doing, like, creating a positive impact in um, the cities where they are housed, which is powerful. So what led you to want to do that? I mean, what was the first business that you started?
Actually, funny enough, the The first one was a bed and breakfast business in Ubud. And I was at that time, yeah, no one really knows about that one because like it's like a little secret story.
Yeah.
When I first came to Bali in 2015, and I did a yoga teacher training, and that was just to get away from the crazy gang life that I was in. And I was like, I want to try something different. And I was practicing yoga kind of secretly between all my friends. I stopped kickboxing, so I started doing yoga, and that was like my path to change.
Right.
And I started getting into yoga, and I was like, oh shit, there's something else out there. Like I started getting in touch a little bit more with myself. So yoga got me in, and then that's when I realized Ubud was somewhere I could live and be someone completely different. And so then I went back home, and when I first got to Bali, I made friends with the local tattoo boys, and I got a full sleeve out there. Boys who tattooed you, and I was actually like, cool, this place is somewhere I can actually like. I have friends, I have local friends, and they took me home to their home villages. I went to their family ceremonies. I went partied with them, and it was like, wow, I got like a little crew here of like local tattoo guys. So that was cool. And I was telling one of them, G'day, my shop manager, the little guy that you met. I was like, dude, I want to come move out here. And he's like, cool, whatever you need. And I'm like, I want to start a business out there. Can you help me? He's like, yeah, I'll work for you. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, are you sure? I'm like, yo, I'm sure. Are you sure? It's like, let's do this. I'm like, perfect. Okay. So I had a link, and that's how it always started in the drug game too, is it's about connection. It's about bridging connection. And I found a link. It was the same. It's funny. It's just transferable skills, right? So I just found a link out there, and I was like, okay, the only thing I knew to do was like, okay, you get real estate, get into a bed and breakfast business. And I started that. And while I was doing that, I was diving super deep into spirituality, like the deep into of what I thought was spirituality. So it was the yoga scene. It was quite fluffy. I was going to fucking cacao ceremonies every week. Imagine this guy at a fucking cacao ceremony. It was ridiculous, but it was cool, you know? It was like I was doing all that, and I was trying so hard to swing the pendulum to the other way. So I had this awesome little bed and breakfast, and meanwhile I was like growing a big beard, wearing sacred geometry. I had the crystals on. I was saging shit. You know, I was
you just went all in.
I went straight to that side. I was thinking about changing my name. Like I went that far on it. And
so Aren could have been Rainbow.
Would have been like a Hanuman Baba or some shit. Fuck. No, and so I did that. And it took about a year. I had that lease on that place for a year. The business did good, but our passions weren't into it. We started tattooing out of the bed and breakfast though. So we were the only Airbnb tattoo shop. And we quickly realized that was way more fun, and we made more money with the tattoos, and it was more our passion. We were just all like stoked on that. So we the lease was ending, and I realized I needed to do something that had purpose though. I was there, and I did enough things for money back in Vancouver that didn't fill my heart up, that I knew it's not worth it. It doesn't matter how much I'm making. It's not going to make me happy, truly happy, unless I'm feeling like my purpose is filled. And that was the big lesson from leaving the dope game and doing good at it. Was like, it's empty. There's no happiness there unless your fire is being fueled by some sort of purpose. You're waking up and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm doing this for a reason. So when I left, when I was doing the bed and breakfast, I was like, just like, some people 90% of our clients were super cool. And then 10% are like, there's a gecko in my room. And you're like, motherfucker, it's Bali. Like there's geckos everywhere. Fucking get out of here. And it was like, this is like, not worth it. So then I went to India near the end of the lease, and I was like soul searching, like my first soul searching time, my first time going to India alone, second time ever. And I went to a meditation retreat in the Himalayas called Tushita. And it was tough because I was still like on the transition from gangster life to like yogi, spiritual, I don't know who I am, what am I doing type of life, right? So I went there and I had to sit with myself for 9 days in silence, and it was like rough. Like it was not an easy retreat. It was cold. It was terrible food. It was, you're dealing with your own self. And when I got over the tough part of it, say day 6 or 7, I just had a great idea. It just came through, and it was like I was meant to be giving back. I knew that. I knew when I left Vancouver and I got my life given to me, like my second chance was given to me. I had to make the best of it, and I knew that I wanted to give back. And so that kept playing through, and I knew why the bed and breakfast wasn't filling me up either, because I wasn't making a real impact. Like, sure, I had people working for me and I was helping their lives, but I wasn't doing anything to really affect the town Ubud that kind of was my safe haven that I got to start over in. So it's like, fuck, I'm not really giving back. So I was sitting there meditating, and it was like, yo, tattoo shop, give back to charity, and have the highest quality ink that you can have. And it was just like, yeah, that's going to work. That's a good idea. And I went back to my room and wrote it down. And the rest of the time I was meditating, and I was like, okay, well, what would it look like? And I was like planning the whole time. I was supposed to be meditating, and I was just like planning. And there were just great ideas that come through in meditation retreats. And it's just pure consciousness. You're just tapped. So when I flew back to Bali, I was like ready to make it happen. I got there. The idea had so much juice around it that within 3 months, I had opened the shop. Like I found the land. I found the owner of the land was the head of the business district. So he just had all my paperwork done quick. I had the shop open. A bunch of my friends helped me come paint murals for free. Opened up the shop. Within 3 months after that, we were the busiest shop in Ubud, and my full investment was back, and I was cash flow positive. So it was like, that was quick. It was the busiest shop in Ubud right away. So it was cool. It was cool to see that, right?
And you were giving back from the beginning.
So right off the bat. So when I got back, I asked a couple of elders in the community, like, hey, what's a worthy cause for us to give back to? We want to find a good cause. And my friend Johnny, who owns Soma, said, you can go to the school for autistic children, and they need funding. And there's not a lot of funding for mental health in Bali for kids. It's just like they don't have the same infrastructure that we had back at home. So it's like, hey, I go and check out this school, and I was in tears when I got there. I was like, wow, these kids are just like some severely mentally disabled, physically disabled, or just autistic, and unable to interact with normal children in the same way. But they had a community in this space, but they need help. And so I was like, cool, we're going to donate part of our proceeds every month to this school from here on. So we just sponsored that school since we opened for 3.5 years now. So that was like a cool thing. So people really got on with that. So it's not like it's a new take on a tattoo shop, right? It's we support kids, a fair chance of them having community and education and connection that didn't get the same deck of cards that we were dealt with, right? We're fucking lucky. Like we're so lucky when you think about it. These kids didn't have that. So that was
and
a
at
good
the
cause
same
for us.
time, you're impacting your immediate community, the one that you're living in, which is powerful. And like,
cool.
So you've got this conscious tattoo shop that's doing vegan ink tattoos. You guys are giving back every month to a very amazing, incredible cause. You're creating an impact in the community that you live in. What I love so much about what you are doing is that you are really being a leader. I think that there's a lot of people who just say a lot of things. A lot of people nowadays, what was happening in the Amazon just as of recent with the fires, a lot of people posting social media pictures that are like all doom and gloom and just say, spread the word. And it's like, great. Yes. And what are we going to do about it? The action piece is always missing in the spiritual community, especially for some reason. Like everyone just wants to talk a good game, but when it comes to like either putting your money where your mouth is or taking the actions that are needed in order to actually create change, they don't do it.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's easy to jump on a cause because you can share a fucking story or something, or like, you can share a post and it's like, oh, I did my part. It's like, you didn't do shit. That's not actually doing anything. And I found an aversion towards that because it's like, I find I can make an impact in my community and I want to make bigger global impacts, but you got to start with the small ones and then learn how to make impacts. And then you can grow bigger impacts and grow bigger initiatives, or join Sea Shepherd or some shit, that's possible. But then we were going to make a video for Yogi Lab, the third business, for the Amazon. And we're like, we got to raise awareness. And while we're doing it, we're like, this isn't authentic, because it's like, are we just doing this to jump on a wave? Like what's our real intention here? Unless we're going to go there, do some shit or find an initiative and help fund it. Just sharing awareness is great, but I didn't find it being super authentic when we're actually doing these other causes, and then we're just gonna like make a video for publicity, and we scrapped the whole idea. Like we were filming it, and we were like, this is cheesy. Let's not do this. And we scrapped it. It was funny.
And that's the gift and the curse of social media nowadays, right? Like everyone's on social media. We use social media to spread the word, to be connected. It's amazing and incredible, and it can people can be. They can influence themselves to want to show up in a certain way or portray themselves in a certain way. And so everything they do is about the image. And yet behind the scenes, they're not actually integrating what they're saying. They're not actually doing what they're saying, what they're
Yeah.
preaching, what they're telling
Yeah.
you to do.
Yeah.
And when I was in Bali at your shop getting tattooed and we were reconnecting as our new selves, as our evolved selves,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
we were talking about Bali and how a lot of people come to Bali as a place to like escape and quote unquote find themselves.
Yep.
And that's why there's such a large community of expats in
Mm-hmm.
Bali. Like you
Mm-hmm.
go to Ubud and every second person is not from Bali. So yeah, like in Bali, there's a lot of expats and there's a lot of people that come there to escape their lives, to transform themselves, to be spiritual or connect to their spirituality. And there is such a big disconnect between desiring change and actually changing.
Yeah.
Like there's a disconnect.
No, 100%. What I realized out of that was, so I tried to do the whole spiritual uniform, and I wanted to be seen as spiritual as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And back in Vancouver, I had the Vancouver successful, edgy guy uniform. I had the Gucci jacket, I had the Louis shoes, blah 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 blah. Then I went, and then I was like, I'm selling all these things. These possessions own me, blah blah blah. And I got rid of all that shit. I mean, I kept some of the nice stuff when I go back to Vancouver, but I paid a lot of money for it.
Yeah.
But when I got to Ubud, it's like, oh, everyone's wearing this stuff. I got to look like a pirate. Oh, okay, I'll fucking look like Aladdin, and I'll put on the Aladdin pants and all this shit, and I'll go do that. And I thought that's what was going to make me more spiritual. And so then I did that, and then I did dive in deep practice. I did the 500 hours of yoga teacher training. I did the 5 meditation retreats. I did the practice. I went in deep, and then I saw like wearing the clothes doesn't actually make you spiritual. It's the amount that it's about your actions. It's just really about results. And I saw that, oh shit, man, all the glitter and all the sacred geometry and all these things is just another costume. So like the Vancouver Aren costume and then this costume, they're just masks you're putting on, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, did you freeze again? I was making a good point.
I heard all of that. And this people think that they can control their
no, you cut out for a while. Where did you cut out?
Okay, we're back. My editor is going to have to actually do some work on this episode.
No shit. I was cutting out because I was making a point about masks. Did you
Yeah, we got that.
Okay, cool. So then what I was seeing out of that was that a lot of the people were wearing those masks, and me in the first part included, and I wasn't actually really doing anything other than just trying to be looking as spiritual as possible. But then the same stuff was happening, the same hypocrisy, the same judgmental stuff, the same, all that was still happening in the spiritual community. And I was like, oh shit, wait a minute. You can be a shitty person even if you're vegan. Oh shit. Then I was like,
you
wait a minute.
You can be a shitty person even when you're wearing mala beads?
Yeah, wait a minute. Cocaine's vegan. It doesn't mean shit. No, I'm just kidding, man. No, it was something that it was like a rude awakening for me.
Right.
I was doing a lot of charity work in there, and there was a crisis on the island. Volcanoes were going off, earthquakes were happening, and we need to band together to help the locals. And I was like, okay, all of us capable individuals that are here that came here, we'll get together and we'll make a big difference. We start raising money, and we're doing it, and then we're hosting fundraisers. And then when I saw the actual, like, when it was time to show up and it wasn't just a cacao ceremony, people were like, they're bailing. And I was like, yo, this is when we show up. What do you mean? And that's when I really saw the difference between looking spiritual and acting spiritual, and or being spiritual. And that's just action. It just comes down to action. You can look however the fuck you look, as long as you're showing up and acting. That's the most important thing. So then I really realized that it was like, the more deeply I got into spirituality, the more real I got, the more hardcore I got. Because I swung from hardline, gangster Aren to super spiritual hippie Aren. Right. And then I was like, actually, the real path is in the middle, where I'm just real and I'm not faking it to be this guy. And I no longer have those tendencies from this guy. And I'm just really who I am. And was like, I found a more powerful stance. I was just able to be more of action, just get shit done and not have to code it with a bunch of fluffy language.
Right. Cool. It's like when people go through these personal journeys of transformation, often that's what we fall into first, is like going from wearing one mask to wearing another mask, because you actually don't know how to show up just as you.
Yeah.
And the true spiritual journey is that it's coming back to you.
Yeah.
It's finding that courage and that bravery to just show up as you, and also like just learn how to navigate life as you.
Yeah.
And so I love that you said, you know, the difference between looking spiritual and being spiritual, because like
Mhm.
that's what it is. It comes down to, I'm going to try and show up in a way where I think I can be perceived as, versus I'm just going to be.
Yeah. What's so spiritual is being responsible for your actions. Like, oh shit, taking responsibility. That's a very spiritual practice. Wow.
Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought?
Yeah. Right.
Right?
Being accountable. Wow, that's fucking spiritual, but you don't think so, you know? And that was
Yeah.
really funny. And that's what I noticed in the spiritual bypassing community. That was like being really actually accountable for your actions wasn't like seemed as spiritual. It's like, oh, it's just not in flow for me to honor my contract. And you're like, what? Like that, these are real stories doing business in Bali, by the way. This is
Right.
real stories. It's just not in flow. It just wasn't in alignment to do the things I contractually said I was going to do. And you're like,
Yeah.
fuck. Like that was happening a lot.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, okay, this isn't the full idea of spirituality. Spiritual bypassing is just a way to sugarcoat what you're saying because you don't want to be in integrity, because
Hmm.
it's not it's not the easiest choice for you.
Right.
And it's easier to go to ecstatic dance and put glitter
Drink
on your cars.
cacao and yeah.
Yeah. You can't put glitter on your daddy issues. It's not going to work. Ain't gonna work. Ain't gonna work.
No, no.
You know,
And cacao doesn't like automate, just drinking cacao in a ceremony isn't going to heal
yeah.
all your traumas and wounds.
My business partner Dave, we laugh about this all the time, right? So we started Yogi Lab together, and he's just like another hard line dude. He's like my best friend out here,
Hmm.
and he was he grew up in poverty in England, like sub poverty line. Then he went into monk life, and he lived like a monk for many years. And then he realized he had to take care of his family. He got out, went into business, became a multimillionaire. I'm sitting at his oceanfront cliffside villa right now doing this podcast from you,
Yeah.
and we're working on a course we're putting together, right? And we were like, I dropped the "you can't put glitter on your daddy issues" line, and he like almost fell off his chair like laughing, right? It was fucking funny. And he goes, yeah, you can't put glitter all over your shit. Shit and glitter are a bad combination. And I was like, oh, visuals. It's so good.
And it's true, right? It's like people get into spirituality and wear it like a fucking mask and think that
Yeah,
that's going to heal all their problems. But the real work is the work that you actually do. It's the effort that you put into your life. It's the effort that you put into actually implement and integrate the changes,
exactly.
right? It's like you can read a book, or you can read the book and implement what was shared in it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And then
It's
that's
hard
the
work.
difference between looking spiritual and being spiritual.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is a little bit I want to say that's inclusive or inviting to people, that you don't need to look super spiritual to be spiritual. You can look not like I stopped buying all those kind of clothes. I just dress what I think is a little bit more toned down now,
Right.
because it's like, yo, I don't need to look the part. I just act the part. So anyone can be spiritual, and you don't need to look like,
Yes.
you know, the typical spiritual look. It's like,
Right.
it's not necessary. You can just be an awesome human being by taking responsibility, doing what you're going to say, and
Hmm.
making the difference. Doesn't matter how
Yep.
you look. Yeah,
Yep.
and that was
I
good.
love that, because I live in LA. And
Oh
LA is
yeah,
kind of like this whole other bubble of spiritual people
yeah,
who are all about looking spiritual. And there's
yeah,
like a very small, minute percentage of that who are actually being
yeah, yeah,
spiritual.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
um, for me, like I often, like I'll go into these settings, where there's like a lot of spiritual people. It's an event or a workshop or ceremony, something. And I show up with my dyed hair and my manicured gel nails that are
yeah.
really long, and, with my flashy toenails. Like I just show up and I drive in with my Mercedes, which I love.
There you go.
You know what I mean? And my designer purse, which I love. And at the same time, I consider myself to be more deeply spiritual than so many of these people, because I am fucking being it.
Yeah,
Like I don't need to wear feathers and wear like all white, or like paint my body or whatever the fuck else happens, drink cacao every night to be spiritual. For me,
no,
it's like, it's what we learned in our religion. Actually, the we're both Sikh, right?
we
Are
are
you
both
Sikh?
Sikh.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
So we share religion.
There you
And
go.
Guru Nanak, in our religion, really taught that we don't need to, we don't need to go somewhere to be with God. Like God is always with us.
Exactly.
And so that's something that I also believe with spirituality, like we don't need things to be more spiritual. We don't need to look a certain way to be more spiritual. We don't need to have certain things to be more spiritual. Although I really fucking love crystals. I have an issue with like a true addiction to crystals, but we don't need things. We find that spirituality and that connection to spirit within us.
I was
What
gonna
the,
say a
yeah.
quick little reference was though, like our boy Adam Roa said it, and he was like, making money isn't evil, and money is just a representation of like your connection with yourself and your spiritual progress. If you can actually just be tapped in with yourself, you can generate wealth. Like you can do these things, and you see it a lot in the spiritual community, spiritual bypass, and there's a bunch of broke hippies running around, and it's like if you just were responsible for your actions and tapped in and actually being responsible for yourself, you can generate wealth and you can make money and you can be financially stable.
Yes.
And it's a big thing. It's like, I don't believe in money. It's like, but, yo, like this is how the world works.
Right.
You just have to.
Yeah.
So
that's work on your shit. That's what that's called.
Money isn't evil. It's like,
No.
it isn't. It's actually just energy, and we need it to trade and to actually be taking care of ourselves. So it's actually being responsible, getting back in the world and making money in a conscious way.
Yes.
So like, because I did it in an unconscious way, so I get it. It can be evil if you're looking at it in the wrong way, and if you're selling kilos of coke to get by, it's like, that is not a good form of living, and I know that. But then getting into a way of making a difference, helping people, impacting people, helping people feed their families, like you're making a positive impact, and that ripples out. Money is not evil; it's a representation of your personal power.
Yes.
And that is like, okay, that's wealth. That's a way to roll, right? So yeah, I think that's a big misconception. The hippies need to get a job. I sound like my dad.
Yeah. Oh my God. Money is a representation of your personal power. I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really great place to cap this off. For our listeners, like, I really hope that you see why I chose to bring Aren on the show. Like, we have enough people talking the talk, and this spiritual personal development journey, this transformational journey, can be one that is very empty if you're not actually putting into action the visions that you're seeing, if you're not actually integrating, if you're not actually implementing, if you're just bypassing your way through this transformation, it's not a transformation. So Aren, thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing your wisdom. And I'm definitely coming back to Bali to get more tattoos.
Yeah. Awesome.
So why don't you tell our listeners how they can stalk you online, and then I'm going to put all your links in the show notes.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you so much. I'd say the biggest way, obviously, today is Instagram, ink_pray_love. You can follow me there. You can follow Conscious Arts Tattoo Shop and Conscious Arts Tattoos on Instagram. Karma House Bali, that's the second business. That's the second tattoo shop that's making an even bigger global impact. And then also at the Yogi Lab. And that's the new online platform. We'll be putting out courses and classes, and people can follow along with us and access spiritual practices without the fluffy bullshit.
Yes. Fuck yes. I love that. For anyone who is going to Bali or is in Bali and listening to this, make sure you visit one of his or all three of his establishments, because I tell you, they are refreshing just to be around. I mean, even your tattoo shop, it just felt like I was around real people who really get it. And that's powerful. So Aren, thank you so much for being on the show. To our listeners, thank you so much for joining me and Aren on today's Thought Leader, where we're challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If you dig this message and want to connect with us, please connect with us on Instagram. Just reach out in our DMs, share your biggest insight, and be sure to drop a rating and review on iTunes. So that's it. That's all. Aren, thank you so much. And listeners, I will see you back here on Thursday for a brand new episode of, I'm going to see you back here on Monday for a brand new episode of Today's Thought Leader.
Thank you.